What? I'm poor.
Hi, my name's Liam Taylor, LTGuitarist on most of the platforms. I'm a musician, composer, music educator. If it's music related, I'm probably into it. It's pretty hard to be a musician right now. I mean, it's always been kinda hard, and it's almost not worth making music. Almost. It's not like I can just stop making stuff, and believe me, I've tried that. Ooh. Thankfully, there's Ko-fi. You probably know about all the ways that you can support independent creators like Patreon, OnlyFans, stapling a $5 to pigeons. Platforms like Patreon are amazing if you want to offer something exclusive to your fans every single month, but I don't want people's access to the music I make and the tutorials I make to be limited by their income. I want my stuff to be available for free, but my accountant tells me that that's a really bad business model. And that's why I made this Ko-fi account. If you're lucky enough to have a bit of spare cash floating around and you've enjoyed or made use of anything I've made over the years, you can buy me a coffee, or you can contribute towards new computer hardware, guitar strings, you know, all those things that are necessary to music creation but that aren't free. If you make music professionally or as a hobbyist, I hope you take a moment to check out my YouTube channel or my Twitter account, and if you like what you see there and have the means to do so, I hope you'll consider supporting me on Ko-fi. See you later.
I asked ChatGPT to come up with 10 guitar rules for using reverb pedals.
Number 1, thou shalt not use reverb without first consulting the tone gods. Reverb shall only be used in moderation, lest thou be accused of reverb abuse. Thou shalt not use reverb on clean guitar tones, for it is a sin. Thou shalt not use reverb on distorted guitar tones, for it is also a sin. Thou shalt not use reverb on any guitar tone, for it is always a sin. Thou shalt not use reverb in any context, for all guitar tones are inherently reverby. And thou shalt not adjust the reverb mix knob past 11 o'clock, for it is the point of no return. Thou shalt not use reverb on any guitar solo, for it is a sign of weakness. Number 9, thou shalt not use reverb on any guitar riff, for it is a sign of overcompensation. Thou shalt not use reverb at all, for all guitarists should just stick to playing dry.
The Chord Monologue is a monophonic analog synthesizer. It's got a pretty reasonably sized memory and powerful sound sculpting tools. It's got a step sequencer and plenty of MIDI functionality, so as long as you're comfortable with the smaller key sizes, you're going to get a lot out of it. The Potato is a vegetable. As far as synthesis goes, the Potato offers 0 voices and has maybe got 2 or 3 sounds. There's a button on the back that launches a sample as well. You don't get to choose the sample, it's completely random, you just get whatever you're given.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay!
That's unfortunate. But it is true analog, and it could be chips. Now, in terms of musical application, I think it's fair to say that the Monologue might just have the edge, but you've got to consider price. The Monologue retails for around £250, whilst the Potato is less than £1. For me, the Potato is the clear winner. Also, it has a soul.
Jupiter. I was playing the game on the Jupiter.
What game on the Jupiter?
Russian game. I was playing the game where you type.
It doesn't turn on, Doug. We don't know how to turn it on. I told you that when you got here.
This is a mandolin. I can't play mandolin. I also can't play slide, and I also am not very good at using the ebow. So what happens if we combine these three things? You hear that? It's weird. Where did I get my obvious knowledge of music theory? Fun story. So this is going back to my early 20s, so 13 years ago when I was at music school. There were a handful of kids that were really good at guitar. I think I was one of them. Basically, you show up on day one, you don't know anyone, they put you in bands, and then you are in that band for the next 2 years, and you do all your coursework together. Really good system, works really well, really smart. So the band I was in, I was one of the two guitarists. I was like 20, 21 or something. The other guitarist was 16. And he was the best guitarist in the building. Like, there's just no, in terms of just like ability to play, he was the best guitarist by like a significant margin. And there were some great players, really excellent players. He was the best, and I was in a band with him. So most of the time I ended up obviously playing rhythm guitar. To a 20-year-old, that was a fate worse than death. He was going to be able to get by just shredding the heck out of whatever. He'd be able to get like a passing grade just without really having to try. So I decided to get really, really good at all the theory stuff. I could play better than him because I knew how to use modes. So it wasn't that what I was doing was technically more adept than him. It was that my note choice was just way more engaging and way more interesting. So if you wanted just like a standard rock player, this kid was the guy. Absolutely 100% the guy. If you wanted something slightly more interesting, I was the guy. So technically speaking, wasn't the best player, still not the best player, but I got good at thinking my way into being better at certain things. So I got really good at like
kind of chord structure and scales and the modes and all stuff like that. And that was my flex. Oh, and what helped, of course, was this kid lived like nearby. He was like a 20-minute car journey away. So he would just, class would end, he'd hop in the car, home, done. I would travel an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. I was using that spare 3 hours sat on a train to get smart. I became a big nerd for modes and chord structure and stuff like that. That's my story. That's my story of why I'm a big nerd. This had better be the best. Bum, bum, bum. I think my camera's moved. Oh well. Let me just rearrange my entire body. There we go. I did it. Haha. Hello, the internet. How's it going? Liam Taylor here, LTGuitarist. We're gonna have a weird time today. That's what today is going to be. I'm going to attempt to manipulate the very fabric of time with Cubase. Is it a stupid idea? Yeah, of course it is. It's my idea. Why are we doing this? Because sometimes I'm going to keep moving this microphone while I talk. Because sometimes there's so much stuff in Cubase that it's kind of impossible to know all of it. And that's something that really appeals to me, just knowing that there's so much stuff in Cubase that I might never use unless I go looking for it. And some of the stuff that I found particularly interesting is a lot of the time-based stuff that's built into Cubase. I don't just mean tempo, but I mean like, well, you'll see. We'll get into it. And this is something that I don't really explore in compositions, in terms of like changing tempos or time signatures. If I write something in a weird time signature, I tend to stick to that time signature. Like, I don't mind writing in 9/8, 7/8, 5/4, like any of the kind of standard weird. I probably write in 7/8 more than I write in 3/4, for example, or indeed anything in kind of a triplet feel. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to explore some of that. And I very rarely modulate tempo in music that I write. If I do, I'll tend to have a section and then a kind of break, like a few bars of nothing, and then come in at a different tempo. I very rarely modulate tempo whilst a thing is happening, unless I'm trying to kind of do something gradual to, I don't know, replicate the looseness of a live band. Sometimes I do that. There's lots of different angles to approach this idea of time in Cubase. So let's get started. I don't know how much of this today is going to be me writing a piece of music and how much is me going to be playing around with concepts, but I think it's probably a good place to come back. Come boy. Hang on, let me just deal with this. I've got I actually invested in a rack equalizer to try and reduce some of the rumble, and mostly what it's doing is reducing the sound of me when I need to like put hands on my microphone, which is not something I try to make a habit of. But anyway, so just to get started, I'm going to add like a few different instruments just so we have something, to play with. And also when I headbutt my microphone, it makes less of a sound. I really like Empire breaks, like a whole bunch. Really, really. I need to... There we go. I don't know why... I'm a big fan of Empire breaks. Let's load up 100 BPM kit. That's got a bit too much percussion-y stuff. Okay, that'll do. That will absolutely do. So I'm just going to have hip hop kit. Let's give that a little image so we know what we're looking at. And I'm just going to write a few bars of that drum part. Words are hard. So there we go. We are going to... I'm just going to click and draw. We've got a 32 bar grid, which is loads. We'll go... I probably won't even use 16ths. I like that kick. Probably something like this. Yeah, I mean... Let's try that. Going to put a bit of swing on that because I think it wants it. That's a little weird. I kind of like that. Let's double up those snares. Oops. I want every other snare. Nah, I kind of hate that other one. Let me just separate these out. That'll do. Let's not overthink it. So we've got a drum kit there. Time, please. We've got a drum kit there. Let's start with the absolute basics in terms of what you can do with time in Cubase. This is a 2-bar loop. We can make that slower by changing the tempo, right? That's probably not an alien idea. And actually we can, with the transport bar here, we can just drag and move the tempo. So if I just drag this all the way down to 67, that drum loop is now at 67 BPM, right? If I drag it loads up, how far does it go? 360. That's pretty fast. I would say that would be comfortable around 100 BPM. Fine. We have another way to change the timing of this drum kit without affecting the tempo. If I press 1, you see I'm cycling through the cursor here. If I press 1 twice, 1, you see there's a little clock next to my cursor. You can also get it at the toolbar up here. Sizing applies time stretch. If I move this, the MIDI clip, it's going to lengthen or shorten it. So whatever the new clip length that I adjust it to, whatever I adjust the clip length to be, it's going to fit all of the MIDI information within that. So this 2-bar phrase, if I want to squash it down so it only takes up 1 bar, we can do that. If I want it to last for some reason 2 bars and a beat, and what's cool is we can put a loop on that, and we are technically working at 100 BPM, but we're definitely not. This is a different tempo that I don't have the maths skills to work out. But you could totally, if you wanted to have, for example, let's duplicate that. Let's take this second layer, and rather than hi-hat, we're gonna have, that's like a cowbell or something, right? So that was the hi-hat rhythm, but we've put it on a cowbell. I could take that and I could, for example, stretch that over 3 bars rather than 2. Duplicate this. So we've got a kind of polyrhythm going on now. So we have a 3-bar loop for the drum kit. But the cowbell is the same loop but stretched. Man, I can't even really articulate what you would call that. It's some kind of polyrhythm, right? Because this top section is going, it's operating at swung 8th notes at 100 BPM. This is not. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, I would be inclined to cut it there and have that as the loop. Now, I would never have stumbled across this, because what even is that? If I put it to 30 seconds, some of those notes conform, some of them don't. We were at 30% swung. Let's put that to 30%. Nope, some of them still don't conform. Absolutely ridiculous. I would never have come up with that rhythm that I actually quite like. Big fan of that. Let's leave that over there. We'll just keep those both as hip-hop kits. So
yeah, that's one of the quite strong time mapping options that we have, which is just up here. Sizing applies time stretch. What else can we do? Well, we've got a couple things we can do in terms of tracks up here. We can, for example, add a tempo track. We can also add a signature track. I'm going to lock the signature track and we'll come back to that at some point. Tempo track. So the way this works is at the top here we have kind of an automation lane. You can see we've got our current tempo here of 100 BPM. And we have the option to change the BPM, like so. Let me copy that original drum part. I'm going to put it here. So I could, in the same way that I could drag the tempo around using the transport panel, I can drag the tempo around with this. We could, for example, start up there and then reduce it all the way down to 80. So that is moving the time around with a ramp. We could also move the time around with a step. So rather than something happening gradually, it happens very suddenly. So we're going to start at 215, we're going to ramp down to 80, and then we're going to jump up to 155, and we're going to jump down to 125, and it's going to sound like this. Which is, you know, I think you can probably hear that the ramp is something that you can totally see a use for, especially if you want to make something that kind of sounds like a band of human people are playing. You know, there's a certain ebb and flow that happens when you're playing live music. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way that music is. Sometimes you speed up a section naturally. Sometimes you slow down. That's absolutely fine. And sometimes you do it intentionally. It's easier to do with kind of traditional orchestrated music, like classical stuff. It's easier to kind of have that ebb and flow, and tempo kind of works differently in that situation anyways. But as far as we're concerned, you can totally use the ramp to kind of just mimic the ebb and flow of live music. If you wanted to just disorient people, you could totally just use these kind of ramps. It's quite hard to keep a track of it, but there also might be some fun challenges inside of that as well. So that's one of the automation options we have. The other one, time signature. This is a great option if you want to... I mean, there's no way to say this without sounding slightly redundant. If you want to change the time signature, you would use a time signature track. So at the moment we're in 4/4. There are 4 crotchet beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The time signature track allows us to change the number of beats per bar. Now you could totally get away with, if you wanted to, doing something like this, just adding. Let's write a thing in 5/4. We need 8th notes swung, don't we? So if we just wanted to continue this pattern, I guess we could move that back somewhat. Something like that would be an okay 5/4 pattern, I think. Oh, come on. So we have a bar of 5/4 there, and it loops and it's fine. The computer still says we're in 4/4, but we can duplicate that as many times as we want, and it still works. We're in 4/4 according to the track here and according to the transport panel down here, but we have a 5/4 bar that can just repeat. So if we really wanted to, for example,
crap, how long was this supposed to be? 2 bars? Let's come up with something else. Let's in fact write a bass part. Let's come in here and let's use, I don't know, Rickenbacker bass. There we go. I'm going to write a bass part that's in 4/4. Because that sounds fun to me. Bass, so let's go let's move it down. Okay, that's pretty fun. So we can repeat this 5/4 drum pattern with this 4/4 bass pattern. And let's find a point where they match up. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bars of 4/4 matches up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars of 5/4. So what we have here is a, I don't know if you'd call this a I suppose this is a polyrhythm. Yeah, it's a polyrhythm because you've got 2 distinct, not tempos, time signatures happening at once. Hot tip, if this is the kind of thing you want to do, super repetitive patterns. Yeah, we are shuffled, but that's about the most interesting thing that's going on in terms of the rhythm here. The drums is playing a very straightforward pattern for 5/4, and the bass is playing just 4 notes. Well, 4 pitches, 5 notes. And that's what makes this kind of work, yeah? Really, really simple, really repetitive. Just 1 bar on a loop. So that's a polyrhythm we've got there. And in this instance, that would be the appropriate thing to do, is lock that in at 4/4, because we've got 2 things going on, and actually we want them to sync up and perhaps join in and do the same thing from bar 29 here, for example. What if the entire track was in 5/4? Grab our pencil tool up here, right in here, just 5/4 or whatever other time signature we want. So now when we drag and drop this 5/4 pattern, you can see it fits nicely within the bar lines now. Let's create another another bass part. Yeah, we're just going to stretch out that one. I mean, it's no money by Deep Purple, but it's pretty cool. There's something in that, for sure. I think that drum pattern might work better if the kick, if the snare was here. And actually, if the first snare was up here as well, that might work better. Yeah, let's try that. Trial and error.
Cool. So what if we wanted to change it? We could have another drum set. We could have another time signature. So I'm going to go back to 4/4 for a little bit. Let's grab this pattern from 4/4 from earlier. And then we can have that same sort of pattern here. So what if we loop it around a bit? For the sake of my brain, actually, I'm just going to move all of this back and make that a shorter loop, because otherwise you're going to be here for days. Cool. What happens if actually let's combine some of these ideas, and this might get a little bit wacky. How much time are these two bars? 59 seconds, very nearly to 103, so that's 4 seconds. 3 to 7. How is that both 4 seconds? 58 or 59 because of that. Oh, yeah, 59 to 4. And then... Oh, it's very strange. Let's take... Oh, I think there's about a second in there. Okay, right, that makes sense. So we can take the tempo now, that it's a step, and let's make this slightly slower. Because what were we, 125, 120. So then that's... Yeah. That's going to be closer to the length of this because we've changed the tempo as well as the time signature. So we're playing fewer beats per bar, so it should be faster, but we've lowered the tempo. Kind of imperceptibly. What if we... There might be something in that is pretty weird for the kind of thing that I would be doing. Okay, so we've spoken about tempo tracks, we've spoken about ramps versus steps, we've spoken about key signatures, we've spoken about tempo signatures, time signatures. My brain. We've spoken about time signatures and we've spoken about polyrhythms. Tuplets is another cool way to screw with time. From here on out, I'm going to get rid of the shuffling because that makes this whole thing very complicated. So we're going for a real straight rhythm. I'm still going to offset the snares ever so slightly. Cool. So tuplets are probably a familiar thing to you. I know that when I was learning piano, like years ago as a kid, there were quite a lot of triplets in music, just randomly throwing in a thing of 3 notes. Let me duplicate this so we can play with an iteration of it. So we have a way to add tuplets. Triplets is probably the most straightforward way to do it. So we can change our grid here, our MIDI grid. We can go 8th note triplets, for example. So rather than having 8th notes, we have 8th notes triplets. So there's 1 more beat per bar, right? Which is a bit weird. So I'm going to change all of these to triplets. So we have the same tempo. We would still write this as 4/4, but we would have triplets instead of 8th notes, which is quite cool. we could have a combination of the two. So we could have the hi-hats doing the triplets, and we could have the bass and the snare doing regular eighth notes, which is what they were doing before. And that's a kind of polyrhythm, isn't it? Because these hi-hats are working in threes, the kick and snare are working in fours. It's pretty wacky. We can go further if we really wanted to. We could, for example, rather than having triplets here, we could subdivide that, well, really by any number under the sun, pretty much. If we open up the quantized panel, which is this thing, this little guy, this little window allows us to choose our tuplet. And I do sort of mean any note. So let's say across a bar, I want to divide it by 5, which is a bit weird. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all I did was I selected the bar and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Or we could divide a minim by 5, which would be twice as fast. We could divide eighth notes by 5s if we really wanted to. I've done this for a bar of quintuplets for the moment, which is kind of cool. So what if we did do twice as many? Let's put that in there. Let's raise the velocity of those, give it a bit of groove. It feels quite strange to have the two different time signatures, so let's put the snares back and the kicks on the beat. How about this? I think it's a bit weird having that many hi-hats, so what about this? So we're still in 4/4. We're still in 4/4, but we've added a quintuplet. Quintuplet. We've added a quintuplet feel to the drums, so we could totally have that quintuplet feel with a 4/4 bass. I mean, it kind of sounds a bit like one of them's playing wrong, but it's technically fair enough. So those are tuplets. We have we have many options, you know. If we wanted to say we could start off with 5s, then we could go perhaps back to for half a bar, and then I don't know, back to a more normal thing here, except the triplets. No, that's quite extreme. Let's say let's do triplets. This will be very weird because we've got two different kinds of tuplet feel within a bar. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't really know whether. Yeah, I don't really know how to move my head to that. It's pretty weird, but I'm a fan of it. Okay, so we've spoken about tempo tracks, we've spoken about time signature tracks, we've spoken about tuplets, we've spoken about ramps and steps. We've spoken about the sizing applying time stretch. There's some other cool stuff we can do if we just wanted to use audio, for example. So let's take a drum loop, and let's maybe take some piano as well. So I'm just going to write like a quick little thing on noir. I don't know, something something like that. So we'll go, let me title that piano. Here we're in triplets, of course, still. So that's the left hand, right hand here. I'm going to try and loosen the loosen the feel of it a bit. Then we'll go. And then we'll do B to C. So nothing revolutionary. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. We'll bring these in slightly later. I think that left hand needs to come in here as well. Let's add just a different voicing at the top here. Yep, screw it. Good enough. So I'm going to... oh yeah, we've got render in place. Haha, my favourite. One of my favourite tools. Control right click over the MIDI clip. Render in place with current settings. Thank you very much. And samesies for this drum kit. Lovely stuff. So we have the audio here now. So if, for example, let's say we had this same drum loop in the MIDI, and let's say we were at, I don't know. Let's say we were in a slightly different tempo. Let's go down to 100. So it's 10 BPM slower than the thing we just recorded. Let's do 4 bars. So, let's say hypothetically I have a drum loop. I have maybe an entire song. It's in 100. It's recorded at 100 BPM. I do not want to move from 100 BPM. That is the tempo of this song. I also have a piano part that I'm really fond of, and I want to use. The piano part was recorded at 110 BPM, which is what we just did here. It doesn't work. It's the wrong length. That sizing applies time stretch tool works here on audio as well. So I can just grab this clip and make it fit. And you can see now these waveforms align with where the tempo is. Yeah, so this is going to work. Let's make it a bit louder. We can duplicate it and it loops just fine. If we isolate the piano, it's a tiny bit grainy. Not very. I think we could get away with that, especially if it's just one layer in there. If we went much further, if we decreased the tempo much further and still tried to make it fit, we can hear it's kind of struggling now. What if we went down to 75 BPM, lo-fi territory? Yeah, it's kind of grainy and nasty now, right? But we have at our disposal a few different algorithms. If I open this clip up at the very top here, Elastic Pro -time, that's the sound of a very secret police helicopter. Quick story, they bought a very secret helicopter. It's bright yellow. This is the police in my city in Cambridgeshire. This is about 10 years ago. They bought a very top secret helicopter, which is incredibly loud, because it flies like 3 feet off the ground, and it's also bright yellow, so you can see it if there is any discernible light. And it kind of patrols because they're looking for drug people. It patrols this area looking for drug people, and it is not secret in the slightest, but it was very expensive and 10 years old. That's my story, which killed some time whilst it did its little loop there. That's true. That's all true and completely verifiable, I assume. At the top here we have... I get so easily distracted. At the top here we have the time warp algorithm. It's currently Elastic Pro Time, which means it's going to do its best to replicate the timing of the original thing. No, I don't really know what it means. It's sort of hard to determine what these words mean. All that I really care about is the fact that if you change it to Elastic Pro Tape, in fact, any of these tape algorithms, something very cool happens. It decreases the pitch of whatever you put in. This is what it was before, which is fine. And that is, of course, the secret to lo-fi. You don't just stretch something out. You've got to let Cubase, you've got to let the algorithm reduce the pitch as well. So we're going to do the same thing here. Oh, it's done it automatically. Wonderful. So the more dramatic your tempo reduction, the more dramatic your pitch reduction, right? So what does it sound like? Only 10 BPM lower than we recorded it. It's pretty good. What if we did do the lo-fi version over here? Super vibey, and very, very cool. There's some other stuff we can do there as well. Just to really hammer the message home, drums, if you stretch them out using the tape algorithm, oh, it just sounds so dope. Especially when you have a slightly looser kit. Big fan of all of that. Big fan. We are not just stuck with... do I want to do that bit next? Let me just do quickly, while we're on the subject of this... one of my favorite things to do when I'm doing anything kind of lo-fi, and if you've watched me do any of the lo-fi kind of streams, you will have seen me do this. I love taking these bounces and then adding just more stretches and stuff. So for example, let's start this piano chord in a new position and start this one over here. Now, of course, because I've changed the length of it, it's changed the pitch. So actually one of the benefits of, if you wanted to use the time algorithm instead, you can get really buggy with the tempo. So we'll do the same thing. So you're going to hear the grain a little bit more, but I quite like that. It's not going to change the pitch this time. And let's also change this one. We don't want that higher chord. So that's a way, if you want to use that's a benefit of using the tape algorithm, is that you can really stretch some of these chords out and really kind of change the pattern as you like. There is a tool that we can use to do the same thing. I've not given myself much space here, have I? I might just move these over a bit. There we go. Let me duplicate that piano part. Why is it being so tricky? Oh, because the tempo changed. Duh. Let me add this drum in for context. We have a really powerful tool that not many people are talking about in the Cubase world. We have this time warp, free warp tool up here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click this clip. What it's going to allow us to do is move these around without having to chop up the clip like we did a second ago. So what was the thing I did earlier? I had Daniel Draws 8. Thanks for the follow there, buddy. What did I have earlier? I think I had this chord held longer, didn't I? So I'm gonna put I don't really know what they're called. I'm gonna put a point here so that I can move this chord around, and it's going to affect that first chord, obviously, and it's gonna not affect anything after that point. So how does this sound? Same Z's. I want to take that chord. I want to make this one shorter. It's a bit weird. But it kind of works. That's the free warp tool. Really, free warp, time warp tool. Really powerful, really fun. It is subject to whatever time warp algorithm you're using. So, for example, this might ruin everything. How very unfortunate. If you happen to have perfect pitch, that might be something worth screwing around with. if you can hear a chord and know exactly how far sharp or flat it is, you may be able to do something with that. I do not have that superpower. So if I'm going to mangle the clip in that way, I want to stick with the aforementioned Elastic Pro time algorithm. Neat. We have other things we can do. Of course we do. There's loads. So over here, it's a bit morose at this point. So let's, morose means glum. We're going to bring this up to, 115 BPM. Obviously this is now way too long. So we're just going to smush it down to the 2 bars. So we spoke about time ramps earlier, using the tempo map. As a way to slow things down. What if we wanted to slow things down, but it's an audio clip? What do we do? Well, if we control and right click, we have our processes up here, and we of course have we've got time stretch, but we've also got pitch shift. Time stretch doesn't really help us achieve what we want to achieve. It might be worth looking at later, but not right now. Control right click, processes, pitch shift. So this is just if we want to change the tuning or something. You can see I had something flattened by 8 cents here. I think there was a vocal I was retuning ever so slightly. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is play with the envelope here, or envelope. whichever you prefer. This is a pitch shifting envelope, so I could increase the pitch, and I could apply time correction, so it literally just increases the pitch. That would sound like this. Which actually for drums is kind of fun. It sounds like we're kind of like tightening the drums as we play them, which is pretty weird. This is going to be a great opportunity to learn something, because I don't know how to open up that processes window without adding another process. So we're going to learn something together. Googling Cubase. How to open processes for audio clip. That's audio connections. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. So basically what I used to do is control right click, processes, pitch shift, but then it adds another layer, which is not what I want. I mean, I can go in here and I can screw with this, which is what I plan to do. But I wonder if there's a way to open that up, but apparently not, which is great. Unless it's up here. Window. Nope. Processes. You know what, never mind. We have time correction selected, right? If we turn that off, we can see that the clip here gets slightly shorter. Let's make it a little bit broader of a range. We'll go 4 semitones. Or if we wanted to go lower, we could do this. Let's move the loop along a little bit. Which actually would be a kind of fun way to, I don't know, to kind of end a track, kind of like a battery powering down or a turntable like powering off, something like that. That'd be kind of fun. We could, for example, if we wanted to have a ramp, we could still use audio with that tempo ramp. So if I turn to ramp here, let's say we want to go from, I don't know, maybe we want to have 2 bars, and then on the 3rd bar it kind of wants to slow down like so, and I actually kind of want it to, I don't know, be a little more gradual, something like that, and then maybe like so. Yeah, so it's kind of a gradual, less robotic down tempo, down to 85. So if I've got this drum loop, I can start it here, 2 bars like so, and then of course visually it looks like this is much shorter. It's not the case. The grid has to stay the same. The audio has to accommodate for whatever the grid says. If I got rid of those, boom, that fits, right? So I could just stretch this out to kind of fit that. That might sort of work. Doesn't really do it. What could we do? We might have to do that per bar. That's a bit janky, so that doesn't quite fit, so we'll move that there. I'm just gonna, ooh, no, I don't like this. If I turn the grid off, I know that should be there. I know that this should be here. This should be here. Oh gosh, okay. This should be here. So that should be here. And that should be there, I think. So then I could stretch these out, I guess. This is going to be really janky. If there's a better way to do this, it is not occurring to me in the moment, so we're just going to have to cope. How does this sound? I reckon terrible. That sounds pretty good, actually. Doesn't sound as janky and robotic as I thought it would. That sort of works. I prefer the gradual nature of this one. I wonder if we could use that. If I kind of stretch this. With the piano, maybe. That would need to happen. Control, click, processes, pitch shift. It's added another layer, of course. That would need to happen towards the end here, like so. So then if I stretch that out... Okay. Oh, of course, because it's compensating for the whole thing. So actually, I want that, because that's where the kick drum is. I want that there. So I want the second bar to be kind of janky. Well, that's interesting. Do I need to take... Nah. I was trying to think if there's a way to make it sound better. Oh, I could use not the tape algorithm. I could use the time algorithm. Nope, that doesn't work. So we've kind of explored. What are we at? We're at an hour. We've kind of explored the different tools that we have at our disposal in terms of manipulating the fabric of time. How do we actually use those, practically speaking? Well, let's try and build a little something. Let's stay at 85 BPM. We've got drum parts. We've got piano parts. So let me take these bits. So that's going to be our main pattern here. We've got this kind of the cowbell thing. I wonder if that works. What if that was bass? It would need to be the right pitch. Oh, of course, because the audio warp won't be exactly the right pitch. Let's never mind about bass for the moment then. Let's definitely have that. Let's definitely have that cowbell thing though. Oh, of course, unless we use the... Oh, we are using the time algorithm. How bizarre. Alright, what if it is tape then? the repeat, I just want to be this chord. Let's perhaps bring the drums in there, just if we're trying to do like a normal kind of structure. Let's continue that. Oh, maybe we'll just duplicate that, like so. Let's take that chord. It's tricky. We'll have two of them instead. Just going to pour myself a drink. Not bad. So we could change that up at the end here. What could we do? Let's have a drum kit that weirdly and for no apparent reason does that downward pitch thing quite far. And then we'll just come back in whatever that is. So that's a bar of 4/4 and oh, actually we go into 5/4 there, don't we? So we'll just steal that idea. Halfway through this, whatever we're going to call this, we're in 5/4. I think we'll have a bass part in 4/4 and drums in 5/4 for fun. So I'll cut up this drum kit so it sounds the same. I'm also going to recolor. That's going to stay orange. This is going to be yellow because that's our intro. This is going to be purple, and then this is going to be pink. I'm going to make a 5/4 pattern out of this. Yeah, pretty weird, but kind of works. That's our 5/4 pattern. We're then going to get bass from earlier, and I know I don't really know what key we're in, but I'm not worrying about that. And then we're going to see how many times that needs to repeat to line up. Hey, that many. How does this sound? Oh, I also want to add in some weird tuplets. We're just going to go 3s for no reason. Pretty weird. Let's retune that. Screw it, why not? Let's take this piano. I'm gonna solo this And here's a little tip for if you ever want to know what pitch something is. We're just going to open up the frequency plugin. And we're going to have a look at that fundamental frequency. Well, we've got a really strong one here, haven't we? And that is what? 124.3 hertz. And you can see on the little keyboard here, that's B. So I reckon we're in B. I don't know it for sure, but I reckon it. So if we go like so. What I'm going to do is just loop it around that note. So the piano is definitely the one out of tune, but I'm going to go and retune the bass because I'm a psychopath. What's the best way to achieve that? Oh, it's hard to listen to. Tune, here we are. Shift and move. Cool. Nice and weird. There we go. I'm going to do a couple things. I might just stretch this out so far that it becomes a noise. Oh, that's gross. Cool. I'm also going to add in some more chords, but I'm going to also add a really neat plugin from Native Instruments. Realm or Room, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go for factory presets, creative resonance gold. No, I want loads more. Ice Cave. Yeah. We're going to automate that to come in. We're going to go inserts, realm, bypass. We're just going to switch it on at this point. Gross. Real nasty. What other chords do we have available to us? These ones. I'm going to align them with the bass parts. Like so. So we want to do that a couple times, I guess. I'm going to take this kick drum. I'm going to stretch it real far out. Oh, that's going to be gross. We're just going to hold that B, and I can stretch the B out again by pressing 1 twice to use the sizing applies time stretch thingy. That's a little too much, isn't it? And then we'll go back to the original pattern over here. What if we were doing that but also ramping up the tempo for no reason? Real stupidly. just for no reason, ramping up the tempo. Let's say these last 3 bars, we're just going to increase the tempo a bit from 85. Oh, of course it screws with the loops, doesn't it? Screwy loops is what we've got. So I'm just going to, grab these, everything from here, and kind of just make it fit. And it might not work. Oh my god. It sort of worked when we did it before, and I was actually surprised by that. So this might not be so bad. It might also be absolute garbage, which is French for garbage. That's not true. Don't ask a French person. Oh crap. That should be... Where should that be? So presumably these all need to fit in here. So that's probably 1 bar. Oh my god. What a stupid mess I've made. You know those moments where you go, what am I doing with my life? This is a little bit like that. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing with my life, but just why? Not sure. Well, this sounds like it could be the soundtrack to me having a complete mental breakdown, and I think that's a perfectly appropriate place to leave the stream for today. I did something weird there. I've been LT Guitarist, and I hope to continue to be LT Guitarist for a while. I normally sort of hate it when musicians and people on the internet say, ooh, big stuff on the horizon, but I actually have got some cool stuff on the horizon. I'm going to slowly fade that music out. I have got some really cool stuff on the horizon. I've got some music coming out, and I've got some recording sessions on the horizon for that, which I'm really excited about. And I also just have some other stuff which I'm pretty sure is happening, but I sort of don't want to advertise it because it's quite cool and it's quite big for me. I usually don't like saying cool about things that are happening that I really am invested in, because then when they don't happen, not only do I feel bad about it, I also look like a liar. So I'm just not going to say anything until it's like for sure happening, or it's been published, or it's, confirmed by someone else publicly. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I'm doing something of value that I'm excited about. Several things, actually. So there will be some cool stuff coming. I would highly recommend following at LT Guitarist wherever you get your internet. Obviously, wherever you're watching this, you can give me a follow. If you want to see more of these streams, the archives, they are over on YouTube. youtube.com/at LT Guitarist. I am on Threads. I am on Instagram. I am in the most technical of senses on Twitter, but I don't care about it anymore. If you are following me on Twitter, it'd be wonderful if you could follow me literally anywhere else, because it's going straight down the toilet. Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed breaking rules of time and space with me today using our good friend Cubase. This was a lot of fun. Yes, what's on the horizon next week? What are we doing on next week? Look at my file of facts. Lo-fi beats. Yeah, man, we're back on the old lo-fi train. So actually, a lot of the stuff we're talking about today is going to be helpful next week for lo-fi stuff. Very, very cool and good. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you same time, same place next week. The time changes on Sunday. So if you're in the UK, don't worry about it. If you're watching from outside the UK, this is why I always say UK time and not GMT, because that's confusing. There will be a time change. If you're watching outside the UK, I will be an hour earlier. Yes. Okay. See you maybe an hour earlier next week. It's confusing. Time isn't real. Don't worry about it. See you next week. Try that again. See you next week. Nailed it. Toodles.